Hello everybody and welcome back to the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series. We are here for round 3 at Snetterton. A lot of the drivers will have spent a lot of time here on the run up to this season, as this is where a lot of the practice sessions were held, so we could see some of the closest racing we have seen right the way up until this point. Joining myself, Jack Worrell, in the commentary box this evening is Chris Buxton. Chris, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Jack. I'm really looking forward to this. I love Snetterton, Norfolk's finest circuit. Exactly as you say, Jack, the racing is going to be really close. Let's face it, so many close battles we've seen already in just two rounds at Donington and Silverstone in this series. And with the extra familiarity of this circuit from its from practicing for this series as well as its real life variant, I can't wait. I'm so looking forward to this.
Yeah, we're definitely in for a busy night in all aspects. Like you mentioned, the first round of the season was held at Donington Park. A 60-minute race was held there. We then went to Silverstone, where we saw yet again a brilliant evening of racing, another 60-minute race at Silverstone. Now we're here at Snetterton. In a few weeks' time, we head to Alton Park for another 60-minute race. Then we go to Brands Hatch for a 90-minute race, the longest race of the season. And the final round, the 18th of March, still yet to be decided on. A 60-minute race will be held there. I'm sure we will get that to you in due course, but it is being voted on, so still lots to look forward to. We also have some brilliant sponsors on board to make all of this possible. Turn 7 Raceway, we'll hear a little bit about them in a few moments' time. Turn 7 do some brilliant racewear. They also do work with caterhams as well. Definitely go check them out. 10% competitive discount on all racewear from Turn 7. We also have Positive Perception on board. They made some brilliant liveries. All of the liveries you see on show this evening are made by Positive Perception. And they also have another special deal on as well. Usually £150, an EnduroKA special for just £100 to get a brilliant livery. Grid Finder, of course, a massive part of this series, and if you are interested in getting out on circuit in the real EnduroKA series, registration and race entry is now open, so make sure you go onto the EnduroKA website and get that checked out. Well and truly worth a look. And of course, the prize is what everyone's here for. The top 3 drivers will win a fully paid ARDS racing license. So, like we say, the entries are now open, and you never know, it couldn't be off the cards. So if you get an ARDS license, you can go racing, and why not? And what in it's the best machinery you can. Very even, great racing. The EnduroKA series is really where you need to be. We also have highlights from Silverstone, and believe me, it was a busy one. At Silverstone, the safety car in the background peels away. Jamie Peters-Ennis, so at the very tail end of the order. We've got some maybe an idea on why that is in a little while, but towards turn 1 for the first time, everybody seems to be working their way through. No May just about. Jack Mace trying the cutback, but then it will be the outside once again for Luffield. Cuts his way back up the inside. Very clever driving from himself. Doesn't let the car wash wide. Back over the... And no idea that Tom Bunton is now trying to work his way up the inside of Scott Thorne and successfully do so at Cops Corner, or has he?
We're about to find out. It's one of those things where you kind of have to take a sharp inhalation of breath. And you mentioned another 50 minutes to go in this, Jack. I don't know about yourself here, but I'm going to need a defibrillator and a lie down a dark room. Recovery drive as well for Colin Dunn. Caught up in that first lap contact there, got dragged all the way to the back of the field here, and is already back in the top 10.
Yeah, he's really been pushing forward. Very impressive stuff from him. Joe Kingston Lee. Bobby Simmons, logically, he's got quite a comfortable lead after all is said and done, but all it takes is one mistake. You go slightly too hot into a corner, you maybe lose the rear end, you can have 5 seconds disappear just like that, and we can have a battle for the lead on our hands, and we can't rule that out at all. Is Bobby Simmons, and this battle is still going on. I've been talking about timings and leaders and everything, and they're still side by side. Scott Thorne and Tom Bunton.
This is spicy stuff, and I get the feeling we're going to go 3 wides as Tom Bunton fancies it, isn't going to have it though, goes inside here. so close to having contact there. Scott Thorne, are you kidding me? Is Scott Thorne just actually driven round the outside of 2 cars at Cobb's Corner? That is scandalous. And there we go, 3 wide as you do. This is going to end well, isn't it? Well, it did actually, to be fair. Tom Button slides up the inside. No way! Get in there, Tom. Up the inside, takes the 2 of them. Job done. That is absolute bravery. I have to say this, in all my time in sim racing, I don't think I've ever seen a sim race that, yeah, you've had little bumps and bangs all the way through, but it is so well-natured. There's so much respect between all of the drivers here.
Yeah, this is a great camera view to see just the respect as well. Look, we're left ending that, but round 2 of the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series will go the way of Bobby Simmons after finishing 2nd at round 1. He follows up with the win. There you go, a quick look back to Silverstone 2 weeks ago, an amazing evening of racing. Of course, Bobby Simmons taking to the top step of the podium, but his main rival, Gary Preble, returns this evening after a prior commitment attending I think it was the CSCC Awards or the Historic Touring Cars Awards. So he had real racing commitments, but this evening he's back and it's going to be closer than ever.
He had a comparatively big lead at Donington, 7+ seconds if memory serves. But yeah, Bobby Simmons representing very, very well. Two out of 2 podiums, and that's not forget James Black as well, who's been chasing him home in both the rounds we've seen thus far in the number 53 car. So yeah, really looking forward to this. Peter Jones was the 3rd man on the podium last time out of Silverstone, so we could still see some upsets or names we haven't seen towards the sharper end of the field. Who knows? But yeah, with Snetterton being a track that's kind of ingrained in your racing DNA, no matter what you race, or whether it sim or real or 2 wheels, 4 wheels, open carb, single seater, whatever it is, you've probably been to Snetterton. So this is going to be fantastic, and it's likely to give us a lot to be shouting about.
Yeah, absolutely. And the first thing to shout about really is what a mix-up we may have had in qualifying. Let's have a look at how they line up this evening. Tom O'Farrell for 2F Media Productions puts in a pole time of a 2-minute 32.339, very quick time. Joining him on the front row of the grid is Gary Preble, a 2-minute 32.413. Row 2 of the grid is Bobby Simmons and Jamie Peters-Ennis, the highest we've seen him so far this season. Row 3 of the grid, Peter Jones and James Black. Making up row 4 of the grid is Joe Kingston-Lee and Colin Dunn. And rounding out your top 10 starters is Greg Giles and Frank Frostick. Looking at the top 5, all of them within the same second bracket, so it could be a very, very close evening within the top 10. Looking down at the bottom 10, Mark Werrell for Squadra di Corsa Veloce, a 2-minute 34.117, followed by Andrew Greer-Hardy, starting in 12th. Starting 13th, Ollie Ricks. 14th is James Wakefield. Then it's Glenn Copeland and Jack Mace. Nathan Down and Alex Saville start 17th and 18th. And rounding out the 10th and the final row of the grid is Tom Bunton and Tim Parsons, who will take on a time penalty this evening. Obviously, we mentioned a few of the sponsors, one of which being Turn 7. And Turn 7, we had a chat with them earlier on today, and we do have a special guest to bring into the commentary box. So, welcome to the commentary box, Callum McDougall. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Jack. How are you?
Not too bad, thank you. Of course, we're here at Snetterton, great circuit. Really looking forward to what's going to be on show tonight. But of course, you're one of the series sponsors at Turn 7. So, for all of those who may be hearing about Turn 7 for the first time, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Okay, yeah, no trouble. And yeah, great to be back here at Snetterton. It feels like I'm circuit side already. So Turn 7 is a business that I started a couple of years ago, having left a company called HRX Racewear. Basically, what I do here is I provide custom racewear services for pretty much anybody who needs it. So we design race suits and find brands that can provide good quotes and good products for our customers. And on the side of that, I also buy and sell caterings.
Right, it sounds like a busy business, and definitely one that's not going to dry up anytime soon, because we've always got new racers, new pedigree working its way into the fold, and of course the prizes for the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series. It's 3 fully funded ARDS licenses. So if you are in a position where you're lucky enough to win those prizes, of course you will be the man to go to if you need to get some kit, you need to get racewear or anything like that. But in terms of the EnduroKA, you've watched it blossom and go from strength to strength, and you've seen multiple drivers of all experiences and everything like that. What drew you to the EnduroKA? Because you're not exactly a stranger to being behind the wheel of one yourself either.
No, I mean the EnduroKA series. It's just a huge amount of fun. It's been great participating in it over the last 4 years. There's such a wide depth of abilities and experience. There's always somebody to race against. The cars are a huge amount of fun. So wherever you are, as long as you're rubbing door handles with somebody, or preferably not rubbing door handles, but yeah, you've always got somebody to have a really good battle against. And I think the series is well run. They've made some good decisions in it, and it's just one of the most affordable ways of going racing, and it's very sociable paddock.
Yeah, it's great to see both on and off circuit. There's always a great atmosphere, and it's really good to see. So of course we've taken you on as a series sponsor, and you've been racing previously with your own team as well, I've heard. So obviously Turn 7, they're going from strength to strength. Ideas for the future, not only for EnduroKA but for the business as well. Is there anything that you think you can see in the future in terms of not only custom racewear, but maybe other things you can provide as well?
Yeah, I mean, we're always trying to adapt and learn and grow. This year is going to be a bit of a changing year for us, and we are growing a little bit where we are. So we're just taking on a couple of new facilities, which is taking up a lot of our time and energies. But yeah, no, we're always looking to expand into different directions. And new products, as are many of our suppliers. So we're trying to stick to the forefront and provide everybody with the best things we can.
Great stuff. Well, thank you very much for joining me in the commentary box, Callum. It's great to hear from you and the services you provide and your ideas for the future as well. But we've got some racing coming up very shortly. So thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.
Good stuff, and best of luck to all you racers out there. Good luck today.
Cheers, Callum. A good chat there with Callum McDougall from Turn 7, giving us a great insight, not only here in the commentary box, but also for everybody at home, just who Turn 7 are, what they provide, and what a brilliant service they do at such a high level as well. So great to have them on board as well. But of course, Snetterton, like we mentioned earlier, Chris, it's one of those circuits where it's where the drivers have got a lot of experience, but it can be quite a challenging circuit as well, because it's very flat. There's not too much undulation change, but of course there's some corners you've got to brake and turn, and in a front-wheel drive car it is quite tricky. But you can see the grid is already formed.
Yeah, absolutely. So in a single spec series, you can't utilize the straights and corners any differently. It's not like the straights will come good to the bigger engine cars, and the corners will come good to the small engine cars. You don't have that difference. So it's all down to how these drivers manage their cars. All about momentum conservation and getting the elbows out at the right times.
Absolutely. Momentum is a massive one in these KAs. We've mentioned it earlier. There's only a 1.3 litre Duratec engine under the bonnet, not producing monumental power figures. Let's go with it. It's not going to spin the world the other way, but it is. They produce some brilliant racing, and I'm sure we will very shortly see some of that. You can see or hear the engine's notes rising. So in a few seconds' time, we will go racing for the 3rd time this season. 6 lights on, and we are away here at Snetterton. Round 3. It's a good start from the inside of the front row of the grid, but an even better start for Tom O'Farrell. driving down to turn 1. We'll see who will get the best run through there. The second phase of the start went even better for Tom. He managed to just about pull in front, side by side through turn 1. Jamie Peters-Ennis already up into 3rd place, looking to make that 2nd place. 2 by 2 all the way on the run up towards the hairpin. Who's going to come out on top? It looks like Tom O'Farrell is just about going to stay in front of Gary Preble. Jamie Peters-Ennis almost went into the tail end of Gary Preble, but it looks like he's already trying to mount an attack for 2nd place, and it's all going the mid-pack as well. A very, very busy turn 2, but at the moment, Tom O'Farrell, he's had a dream start. He's not only got in front, he's managed to build up just a little bit of breathing room, heading into probably one of the best overtaking opportunities very shortly at Agostini.
That was a storming start from Tom O'Farrell in particular. It wasn't a bad one from Preble, but he just bogged down a little bit. Oh, and then you've got someone just looking out there to try and get a move on the inside line of Agostini, just to have the door very unceremoniously slammed shut in their face. I think it was Jack. I knew I'd say Jack Black or something. It's James Black. That was denied that overtaking possibility. We look at James Wakefield now in the catastrophe number 247 briefly before we have a look at the grid finder number 88. Tom Bunton is representing the glorious orange and white colours, having a great argument with Mace, Jack Mace indeed. That is for 12th position. Oh, getting a little bit up close and personal now, coming through Williams onto the Bentley Straight, which I worked out Williams is turn 7, so I had to get the tie into the sponsor there. But yeah, we've seen a few shuffles in position. I noticed that Mark Werrell, I've commented to Kirsten before he even said a word, he's dropped at the tail end of the field, but at least he's got time to try and get back into the groove. We're on board with James Wakefield. He had a bit of a slipstream off the back of Bunton, but nobody used it. And my goodness me, that was Tim Parsons then, that just kind of barreled his way through. But unfortunately, Tom Bunton's gone off. That's around Brundle and Nelson. That has dropped into the tail end of the field. Obviously, couldn't quite see how that came about. And there he is. So he's had a major spin at the end of the Bentley Straight. That's a shame. He was right there in that mid-pack. I didn't quite see how that impact came about, and that's dropped into the tail.
Yeah, right the way to the tail end of the order. Back to where he started. Of course, he started in 19th place. He's worked his way almost towards the top 10 and just couldn't quite stay there. Maybe some sort of mistake or something from there. We saw Jack Mace pushing forward as well. Standout driver for me at Silverstone. He crossed the line a little bit further down the order than we expected in 8th place, but a brilliant comeback drive from literally the tail end of the order. He went from 9th right the way down to last and then back up to 8th, which is no mean feat in these EnduroKAs. Looking back towards the front now, Gary Preble looking up the inside, filling the mirrors of Tom O'Farrell. Jamie Peters-Ennis sat somewhat comfortably in 3rd place, but he can't get too comfortable because Bobby Simmons is within touching distance. The top 4 already starting to break away. It's almost a duo of duos here, because the top 2 are slowly starting to pull away from the 2 behind, and then we get a nice big gap back to Peter Jones, James Black, Colin Dunn, Frank Frostick, Greg Giles as well. We saw somebody a little bit further down, Glenn Copeland. He is still out and circulating, but not quite where we were expecting to see him, so he's not had the best start from 15th place, now down into 20th, but at the moment there he is going down the back straight, so I'm not 100% sure what has befallen Glenn Copeland. Not the dream start, but Tom O'Farrell's still leading the way, but Gary Preble's still there.
Sadly, he had a disconnect right as the race was about to get underway. Sadly, he couldn't take the start, so his start was heavily delayed. And he's now just coming through Bomb Hole, heading down towards Coram now. So very much out of the running for the time being. We'll see what he can do from that position. Top 4, exactly as you say, Jack. Very much locked in combat. Tom O'Farrell is fending off the advances of Gary Preble for the top spot at the moment. Now, is Gary going to sit there and just kind of let the let it all come to him, or is he going to push on for that top spot? I think realistically we know what he's going to do. He's not just going to contend himself for second at the moment. Then right behind Jamie Peters-Ennis is wandered a little bit too wide coming out of Nelson. That's going to cost him that all crucial momentum. Not too much of it, but it will cost him a little bit. That's certainly not going to help his means to try and get in amongst that top 2. Right behind, you've got Bobby Simmons, who, as we said, winner last time out, currently not in a podium position, but not far away from it. One of the most tricky sections of the circuit. Murray's trying to slow down and get the car rotated around as we now look at Tim Parsons. in that battle with Rix in the 795 car. As a great side-by-side. Oh, and that's why you do not want to cut too close to the curb of Murray's. It will send you into orbit.
Yeah, very, very lucky there from Ollie Rix. Of course, we have seen, not naming names, we have seen an EnduroKA find itself on its roof on the exit of Murray's before in the real-life series, so do not rule it out in the Winter Sim series. Now we're seeing Jamie Peters-Ennis under pressure from Bobby Simmons for what is theoretically the final step on the podium. We've still got 54 minutes of the race to go, including a mandatory pit stop, so still lots to think about. The top two well and truly pulling away now, probably because the attentions of Jamie Peters-Ennis have switched from forward to back, just trying to defend that third place from Bobby Simmons. And the best thing that they could do at this point is, if they are in contact with each other or try and somewhat communicate in the simulator, let's work together, let's push forward, because there's a long race. How about we work together, maybe save some fuel and focus on catching that lead duo? Whether that has now been communicated, Bobby Simmons isn't pushing quite as hard as we have seen him before. Then in the background, it's James Black, Colin Dunn, Peter Jones and Frank Frostig all glued together. I think Greg Giles is almost there as well. So they could be the big winners out of this. If something goes wrong at the front, that could then reshuffle the order and the podium could look completely different as it does now. Mark Werrell now up to 16th place. So as you mentioned, he's gone from the very tail end of the order, slowly starting to pick his way back through. Alex Saville will be the next target for him. But that lead duo, I've got a feeling they are working together, because we've seen Gary Preble have a few looks to the inside, but he's going off the body language of the car, at least from my perspective, Chris, it doesn't look massively aggressive.
No, but he's very, very close to the back of Tom O'Farrell now. Is he going to make the move? No. If anything, he was a little bit too deep going through Bundle. Glenn Coburn had retired the car. He actually went off around here, I saw on the driver tracker. He has parked the car. He will take no further part of the race. That's a bit of a shame. Whoa, Jack did it again. James Black almost wandering too wide coming through Nelson. I think he's pushing quite hard to get involved in the in this battle. Ooh, that's a little bit deep there from Preble. Yeah, Coram is one of these corners that you can take several different ways. As here we've got a great three-way fight going on here. Alex Saville, Jack Mace, and Mark Werrell involved in that battle for 15th position. Very, very close. So, yeah, like I was saying, Coram, you can either hug that inside line very, very close, but you do compromise your pace through it to try and open up the entranceway into Murray's, that's last left-hander. Or you take a wider line through Coram and then cut back over to the right-hand side to then open up the route for Murray's. He's rather situational. Sometimes it is personal preference. Oh, who's going to blink first out of these three? Saville, Mace, Werrell involved in that particular battle. And then in the screen on the left-hand side, that's the battle for third position. Again, sort it out, gentlemen. They've nicely done that as they get through Ritchie's. Mark Werrell having a look on the inside line of Jack Mace coming up towards Williams. Is he going to try and outbrake? Oh, he does. I think Mace partly outbraked himself. He was quite some distance from the apex. That gives Mark 16th back again, but then you've got the cutback coming back from Jack Mace to try and reclaim that position back again, whilst you've got Alex Saville that's just kind of minding his own business at this point. Oh, both Mark and Jack there getting very, very sideways, which I think is very impressive in a front-wheel drive car. But no, I suspect they bounced off one another. That kind of aided the slide. And they're still going at it, coming down to Agostini. Mark Werrell with the inside line in the 172 car, and he gets it done for the time being. I don't think Jack Mace is going to let that one sit, though. The number one car is definitely trying to hang on to every position he can get. So Mark Werrell has got that position back. He's going to have to fight to keep it by the look of this.
Yeah, for the time being is well and truly the key phrase in that. The one person that will be absolutely loving this is Alex Saville, because he's gone from the potential of losing 2 places to now the 2 cars behind, both Mark Werrell and Jack Mace, battling incredibly hard, trading a little bit of pain. And that's the good thing about if you get sideways in a front-wheel drive car like this, because they've not got massive amounts of rear grip, you can almost use that to turn the car. But then if you start overturning and you slowly oversteer into the corner, you just point the wheels where you want to go, plant your foot, use all, however many horsepower. I can't imagine it will be anywhere close to triple figures.
90, I think it is.
Yeah, 90 horsepower. You've got a full 90 horsepower underneath your right foot to pull the car back straight again. You can see the body language of Jack Mace's car. Incredibly aggressive. He's pushing hard. Looks brilliant. But it's not the fastest. Look how much time he's just lost to the tail end of Mark Rowell, who's now looking back at the inside of Alex Saville in towards the bomb hole. That's a very aggressive move now on the long right-hander at Coram in towards Murray's. And of course, you mentioned earlier on, there's so many differing lines. When you're either playing attack or defence, you can use those lines to your advantage. Now for the very tricky braking zone of Murray's, you can quite quickly find yourself pointing the wrong way. Jamie Petersen diving into the pit lane, the first driver to head in, and now Mark Rowell has managed to work his way all the way around the outside of Alex Saville. Impressive move. Jack Mace will very shortly be getting impatient, desperately trying to work his way past the pair of them. And James Wakefield, he's just sat behind as well, so he could pick up a couple of places, and that's Jamie Petersen back out onto the circuit. But what could be quite crucial, not necessarily now, but towards the end of the race, he's come out in traffic. How much time will that cost him?
Yeah, that is going to be the question. Whilst you can take the pit stop at any given moment, you're kind of in or not so much random, but you do not want to be caught up in someone else's battle. You know, we've seen Jamie Peter Ennis battling in the podium potential. He does not want to be caught in a midfield battle at this point. But we'll see how the rest of the pit stops play out. It could be that no one else is going to come into the pits for another 20 minutes as far as he knows. But we're now looking at the number 40 car. Well, we're actually looking at quite a number of cars. Speaking of Jamie Peter Ennis, he goes for the inside line on Ollie Rex onto Agostini, gets the move done. Nicely played indeed. As we can see on the tower, Mace and Saville still arguing now behind Mark Rowell following that great move on the outside line of Murray's. Claiming the commentary ace, the 15th spot. Colin Dunn on the back of Simmons now. So that's a top group all shuffling up somewhat. On board, we're back to Nathan Down in the number 40 car, looking at the back of Frank Frostick in the Frost Racing number 32. On the Bentley straight heading down towards Brundle and Nelson, a little bit too far back to make a move at this point. These things aren't terribly aerodynamic, but they do gain a bit of a hole in the air from the car ahead of them. Oh, tail getting lively, and Nathan's followed in through. It's so easy to do. If the car ahead of you outbrakes himself, it's so easy just to follow them off the road.
Yeah, the thing is as well, because if you brake at the same point they do, it could take quite a while for you to find out the pair of you have just jumped on the brakes that too late, especially heading through the quick left and right of Brundle and Nelson, because it's quite a long way until you get to Nelson. Nathan down a big dive up the inside, hard on the anchors, gets the car slowed down, does manage to make up the move provisionally. That does now mean that Frank Frostick is once again back alongside. Joe Kingston-Lee well and truly in on the mix as well. Are we going to be 3 wide towards turn 1? I know in the practice races I struggled to get through there on my own, so 3 wide we are indeed, heading down the start finish straight up towards Ritchie's, who's just about going to remain in front, or are we going to stay 3 wide? They managed to sort it out and go side by side. There's contact between the pair of them, flicked sideways. There is Joe Kingston-Lee. They do come together again. Frank Frostick manages to work his way through. Clever driving from Joe Kingston-Lee. I take my hat off. You kept the car in a straight line, kept it off the racing line. Very clever, considerate driving, and manages to get the car pointed the right way. And the good thing is that mistake has happened in the first quarter of the race. So 46 minutes for himself to work his way back through the order, right the way back to where we were. There is Nathan Down. Doesn't really have to worry about Frank Frostick anymore. And I've got to say, the leaders are slowly starting to pull away yet further from James Black as well, but the mid-pack is well and truly where we need to be looking, because of course Jamie Petersen, he's caught up in all these battles, and we've previously seen him in the top 3. This is only going to hemorrhage time.
Very, very much so indeed. Was somewhat of a game of pinball going on between Down, Frostick and Kingston-Lee, with the number 888 car falling victim. There is Jamie Peter Ennis in the 46 car. He'll want to get as many moves done as he can, and a pretty comprehensive move on Greer Hart, who's, I believe, is his debut race in the series this time around, same as Mark Rowell, his first race of the series here in Snetterton. Ooh, Peter Ennis wandering a little bit wide, not too bad, coming out of Williams onto the Bentley straight. I'm also keeping an eye on the gap between Mark Rowell, now up to 14th place with Jamie Kingston Lee's drop through the field. I'm keeping an eye on the gap between himself and Tim Parsons in the 42, and that's coming down. So Mark is pushing quite hard and dragging Jack Mace with him. You can see on the tower that there's about 0.8 of a second, which is about the limit of slipstream effectiveness, as Joe Kingston Lee is continuing his battle with Jamie Wakefield, coming through Brundle and Nelson themselves. So Mark is really cutting that gap down. By the time that Mark got to the head of that battle between himself, Savile and Mace, it was around 5.7 seconds. It's now down to just over 4. So at that rate, Mark will be with the next group of cars, which is pretty much where we're looking, Greer, Hard, Ricks, and Parsons, in about half a dozen laps or so, or slightly less if the likes of Ollie Ricks keeps wandering off the road, coming through Murray's, as we saw at the back of the shot.
Yeah, and it's definitely something to take into account. Into the pit lane goes Jack Mace. So too does Joe Kingston Lee. That will be music to the ears of Mark Rowell. He doesn't need to worry about his rear view mirror too much. Jack Mace, maybe the clever thing there, he can see he's catching a group of cars and he could potentially be held up by Mark Rowell. So straight into the pit lane, get the fuel stop done, and then he can come out into clean air and just lap quick, clean and consistently. And then hopefully that should benefit you towards the end of the race. Back towards this battle, however, we're now looking at Frank Frostick side by side with Jamie Peters-Ennis. This is the last thing Jamie wants, because he has been fighting for the final step of the podium, and now he's just going to lose yet more time to Frank Frostick. Up the road is Nathan Down. Drivers are still pitting. The 3 drivers we've had so far: Jamie Peters-Ennis, Jack Mace and Joe Kingston Lee. So there's only 3 of the 20 that arrived this evening, 19 still out and running, but this battle is getting closer and closer. Look at how close Jamie Peters-Ennis is. Very brave move if he can make it work around the outside at Hamilton. He gave it a look wide up the road for Nathan Down. In towards Oggies they will go. There's a couple of different lines you can take through here, whether you use curb, whether you don't use curb, how much of the exit you use, or whether you keep the car nice and tight in, and what will affect the momentum. A crucial corner, especially going onto the Bentley straight. Williams again, another tricky corner, avoiding the tyre stack. That can go very badly wrong if you turn in slightly early, and you can see the battles ebbing and flowing. But in the background we have another great little 3-way battle going on between Andrew Greer-Hardy, Ollie Ricks and Tim Parsons as well. Mark Rowell will be loving this, down to 3.6 seconds now, so he's absolutely taking time hand over fist out of the cars in front. Or is he going to catch up and, just as he's within striking distance, dive into the pit lane, save himself the time? There's so many different aspects of this race that need to be taken into account.
I dare say that is exactly what Mark is thinking. Get close to this group, get into the pit lane. Although Mark not doing that, going a little bit too wide. Nelson, I'll take that commentary curse point there for you, sir. So you've got 2 packs of 3, exactly as you were saying. Greer, Hardy, Ricks and Parsons in the group that we are looking at, not far behind the Down, Frostick and Peters-Ennis. Oh no, that's never how you want to see a battle resolved rather. So that's Ollie Ricks then having to figure out how best to get his car back going again. He's taking the only safe option he can, is to get the car rotated away from the racing line. And yeah, I don't blame him on that occasion. Get the car in. Oh, 3 wide, coming down into Richie's again. Oh, now Peters-Ennis on the inside line gets that one done this time on Frank Frostick. Nathan Down, his next target.
Yeah, very brave stuff from the pair of, or from the 3 of them. This time, everybody manages to get through. Mark Rowell, of course, now has been promoted up yet more places, as we've had more drivers in towards the pit lane. Ollie Ricks, as we saw, we got in that incident straight into the pit lane. Clever driving. Instead of having 1 slow lap and then another slow lap later on once you dive into the pit lane, just have 1 big slow lap and then focus on the rest of the race. Clever driving from himself. I think there was a little bit of contact from one of the cars that was around him at the time. I didn't quite pick up exactly who it was. Could have been Kingston Lee, potentially. Now we're looking at Jamie Peters-Ennis. A big dive up the inside and towards Agostini, bouncing off the rev limiter, using the engine braking to get his Ford KA slowed down. A little bit of contact, I think, potentially between himself and Nathan Down. Nathan Down doesn't let the position go, remains in 8th place at the moment. Of course, it's 8th place on circuit. It's still yet to be decided with pit strategy. Hard on the brakes up the inside, not hard enough, I'm afraid. Jamie Peters-Ennis into the door of Nathan Down. That allows Frank Frostick to work his way up the inside of Nathan. Frank Frostick is now back on the attack, runs slightly wide, heading on towards the Bentley straight. Nathan Down's back in front, and Nathan Down not impressed, flashing the lights, and I'm sure we may hear some of it this evening, potentially honking the horn at Jamie Peters-Ennis, and it looks like he's trying to get that move straight back on Jamie at the end of the Bentley straight.
Yeah, it was a bit bold there, a little bit too brutish, I thought, from Peters-Ennis, but now that position returned to where it was. Frostick nearly getting into the boot of Jamie Peters-Ennis there. Oh no, that's trouble again, and Frostick gets a big old punch in the face. Oh no, that is never ideal. Frank Frostick off the road. Peters-Ennis continues. That's Greer Hardy now that is caught up with this particular pack. Frank Frostick dropping through the field. Oh goodness me, it's such is the nature of single spec racing, because you don't have a huge advantage one car to the next. If you make those mistakes, it is so difficult to make that time back again. So that'll be very frustrating for Frank Frostick.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody we haven't looked at in a little while is Bobby Simmons. He's managed to slowly work his way onto the tail end of James Black. This is the battle for third place on circuit. Dare I say it will be third place after pit stops, barring any further calamities. Of course, Jamie Peters-Ennis has only lost yet more time coming out into a fighting pack. Looking back now from James Black, you can see Bobby Simmons is there or thereabouts, half a second just over separating the pair of them at the moment. The lead duo have worked away from each other. Tom O'Farrell now 3.5 seconds to the good up at the head of affairs. Gary Preble still sat there in second place. James Black, as we saw there, in third. Bobby Simmons is in fourth. Colin Dunn and sat there in fifth place. The biggest gap we have is between Greg Giles and Nathan Down, undoubtedly because of the battles that we saw. 10 seconds separating the pair of those two, but all it takes is one little mistake and they can be right back on you. That is the joy of, like you say, single spec racing. Everyone's dealing with the same machinery. The only thing that these drivers can really change is the fuel, the amount of fuel they start with, and of course their pitch strategy thereafter. I think they can change pressures as well, so there's little bits they can change, but they're all working with the same equipment at the end of the day, so a lot of it just comes down to driver skill. But the good thing about the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series is there's a massive range of experience on the grid. Once again, Jamie Peters-Ennis tries the same move he did just on the lap prior. This time manages to make it work without incident. That's Nathan Down into 9th place. Peters-Ennis promoting himself up into 8th. And I've got to say, after what was quite a big hit, Andrew Greer Hardy has managed to sort of deal with that quite well, and he's still sitting rather comfortably in P10.
That is true. Is he going to try and push to get in amongst this pair of cars fighting ahead of him? I would try and do so. It does depend if he is carrying a bit of damage following that incident earlier on. And wow, that looked a little bit deep there from Peters-Ennis, and he's caught that apex. And Nelson is another really heavy sausage come. Oh no, that's Greer Hardy. Literally, as we just mentioned, if he's pushing hard and he's flown off the road, I seem to be commentator cursing everybody at the moment. I stand accused of that. Terribly sorry. He's now down into 13th position, right behind the previously suffering Frank Frostick. This duo continues apace. Peters-Ennis and Down continuing their argument for 8th position. Big move on the inside line coming into Murray's for Nathan Down. Can he get it slowed down? Is the bigger question. He does. Wow, right behind them, Mark Werrell does a little bit of lawn mowing coming through Murray's, but keeps it on the straight and narrow. Nathan Down still pressuring Jamie Peters-Ennis. That's another area really that differentiates drivers, is how well each driver deals with the amount of pressure being applied to them and how well they can maintain that pressure if they're trying to challenge for position. So Peters-Ennis going for a slightly wider line through Ritchie's, no particular gain there. Down into Wilson. And for the time being, I was going to say they remain as they are, but just as I say that, Jamie Peters-Ennis, little bit deep coming through Williams. That opens the door through Wilson, sorry. And Nathan Down just couldn't quite capitalise on it.
No, great racing, great respect between the pair of them, and it's nice to see that they can race door to door, occasionally with a little bit of contact, but then just get their heads down and really fight hard. As we're seeing here, Jamie Peters-Ennis moving over. Does he move twice? No, fair play from Jamie. He manages to move once, stay where he is. Clever driving. That leaves Nathan down with the outside and the outside only, so he's only going to lose yet more time. But of course, with the pair battling as hard as they are, Mark Werrell up into 10th place, potentially picking up 2 more places, but he does have Tim Parsons all over his tail, so that could be a battle emerging there. Very wide on the exit is Nathan down. And I'm afraid, Mr. Buxton, you have been told by positive perception not to talk about Colin Dunn. Do not drop the curse on the positive perception driver, just to keep him on the road. I say that, we haven't had a change for 3rd place. As we're mentioning that towards the top end of the order, I've got a feeling they're side by side, because that's James Black and Bobby Simmons battling away. Go for it.
That's Simmons off.
Yes,
that's Simmons. Literally, just you mentioned Simmons Black battle. Bobby Simmons has gone off the road. Oh, it's Nelson has claimed another victim. This time it is multiple podium sitter Bobby Simmons. I do smile. Thank you very much, positive perception. Wow, that's a throwback to a few years ago. And, yeah, Colin Dunn. I swear used to feel traumatized when I used to commentate back in the touring car days. Great fun, but Colin's been a little bit on his own for a little while, so he's been out of the firing line as far as commentator curses is concerned. But considering how many I've given out already, it is not impossible for the number 19 2-4 video. We can see him just at the top of the shot there. As we look at Bobby Simmons now with a lot of work to do following that off. And Nelson, half a lap ago, he's going to really try and push hard to close that back down. And you can see on the tower when the lap time goes purple, I think that's more a personal best than it is a track best. So it was still seeing plenty of personal best being set as the cars get ever lighter. And we're fast approaching the halfway stage, so a number of cars still have to come in. We haven't seen probably more than about a quarter of the field be in, maybe half at most. So a number of pit stops still to do, and a lot of strategy still to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you mentioned, only half the field have been into the pit lane. 5 of the 20 drivers that started: Ollie Ricks, Alex Saville, Jack Mace, Joe Kingston Lee, and Jamie Peters-Ennis, the only 5 drivers that have been into the pit lane so far. And I'm sure you'll agree, as I think everybody that's been in the commentary box so far this season does, these races go far too fast. Already we've had just under half an hour's worth of racing, and it just goes far too fast. You could watch it for hours. We need the 12 hours of Snetterton, and never mind the 12 hours, 12 hours of Snetterton. Get it here. This is absolutely brilliant racing. There's, of course, the standard little bit of contact and some great battles. You really can't take away from the racing that we're seeing. One driver that is, of course, missing this evening is Scott Thorne. He's built up quite the reputation for being an incredibly entertaining driver. It doesn't matter who he's battling against. Some of the driving you see from Scott Thorne has been absolutely outstanding this season. Great battles with Jamie Peters-Ennis at Donington Park at round 1. Round 2, we saw him battling with pretty much everybody. I don't think there was a single driver that didn't have Scott Thorne at some point, whether it be in their mirrors or slightly up the road. So it was great to watch, and we're now seeing yet more battles on circuit here this evening. This is Tim Parsons in 11th place, bouncing off the rev limiter, heading through Brundle and Nelson. Very sideways was Andrew Greer-Hardy, desperately trying to catch this duo of Tim Parsons and Frank Frostick. Frank Frostick looking to the inside, manages to get the move done on the entry to the bomb hole. Does Tim Parsons carry any superior momentum around the outside? No, not quite as of yet. But of course, all this can change once more pit strategy takes place. Greg Giles in the pit lane now, very quickly through the pit lane. There was Bobby Simmons. Well, I'm assuming there is a pit limiter. I was expecting it to be 50 miles per hour. Reversing in the pit lane, I'm sure that doesn't go down too well with the stewards, but we'll gloss over that for the moment. We still have plenty of battles going on, and plenty of drivers pitting as well. Mark Werrell also into the pit lane to serve his mandatory pit stop.
That he is. It's coming to a screeching halt, as we just saw on the right-hand side of the shot there. More pit stops playing out. I thought Greg Giles was in a bit of trouble there, as I saw that he was listed as being off track and then suddenly appearing in the pit lane. So Oh, he's had a disconnect, so that explains now why he's down at the back of the field. I thought he was in trouble. Oh, that is, you never want to see it, but it is an unfortunate occurrence that takes place in sim racing. But he's still out there, he's still doing what he can with the situation he's in. Tim Parsons still on the back of Frank Frostick, now coming through Palmer, heading towards Agostini once again. And the number 42 car, a little bit too far back, is he? Realistically so. I mean, you could make a move from there. I wouldn't recommend it. And indeed, he did not. And not far down the road is Nathan Down, Ben Simmons, still in their argument. You've got to think that the Ben Simmons will not want to be fighting with Nathan Down, as you know, we've seen Bobby, hustling the podium. He wants to get back up there. Same with Jamie Peters-Ennis. All the battling they've been involved with has essentially backed them away from the positions that they were in before their respective pit stops. Doesn't mean that other drivers won't face a similar problem with their own stops, but it really won't help them. I mean, Jamie Peters-Ennis now is very much in no man's land. 13.5 seconds behind Peter Jones and 5.5 ahead of what we are now looking at, Nathan Down and Bobby Simmons. I'm saying Ben Simmons for some reason. Bobby Simmons inside line, coming down toward Brundle. Can he get it done? Get the thing slowed down? There may not be too much horsepower in there, but the brakes still need to slow it down, and does manage to get it done through Brundle and Nelson. That is 7th to the number 48 car.
Yeah, great driving by Bobby Simmons. I'm sure spurred on with the motivation on the back of a win from Silverstone. So he will definitely be pushing hard to get yet more points on the board. Just desperately trying to work his way back up through the order after diving into the pit lane fairly early. He's gone against the grain. We're now looking at almost half of the field being into the pit lane. And I think there was contact there. I think you saw it better than I did.
Yes, indeed. It was Down and Simmons came together. And Bobby Simmons had to do a bit of, flash of the lights. I'm not really surprised, as Nathan Down introduced his bumper to Bobby Simmons' boot. So that's going to drop them towards Parsons and Frostick, and still flashing the lights is Bobby Simmons. I think he's wanting that position back, and Nathan Down's like, well, you'll have to earn it back. Oh dear, maybe words said about that particular incident. We will see. That's not up to us. And still flashing the lights, much like a lighthouse, is Bobby Simmons. I think he's trying to make a point. He's not too pleased with that, and I'm not surprised. It was definitely a nudge from Nathan Down, not intentional, I'm sure, but either way, Nathan Down doesn't seem particularly interested in giving that position back. Of course, the more they fight, the more what is now that three-way battle of Parsons, Frostick, and now Greer Hardy is going to get involved with them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the less said about that, probably the better, as Bobby Simmons is just desperately trying to make up for the earlier incident. Frank Frostick, Andrew Greer Hardy, like you say, both chasing down Tim Parsons. And of course, I mentioned earlier on, we need never mind the 12 hours of Bathurst, we need the 12 hours of Snetterton. The good thing is, for everybody watching along, it's a thing. If you want to go and watch the actual what is now being dubbed the 12 hours de Norfolk, the fourth round, of the actual EnduroKA series, it's on the 5th and the 6th of August. So make sure, if you want to see this in real life, everything you're seeing this evening, you can go and do that. You can go and get yourself tickets. I'm sure if you go on enduroka.co.uk/calendar with a K, nice little wordplay there, calendar with a K, you can look at the actual EnduroKA series calendar. But back to the racing in the simulator, you can see now that is Bobby Simmons trying to work his way back past Nathan Down. He's got the nose in front. You can see the switch on the timing tower in the background. There's more battles as well. Thankfully, we get to look at both battles at once. How lucky are we? And that is Bobby Simmons in front of Nathan Down, manages to work his way through and past, and they're still side by side in the background on the exit of Nelson. There was a car off once again. Andrew Greer Hardy pushing the limits, trying to keep with the duo in front, but that is now Frank Frostick up into 9th place. Tim Parsons down into 10th. Andrew Greer Hardy, he's got the best seats in the house.
Indeed, but sadly it was the almost Lotus F1 flavoured car that went for a bit of a wander, as we now see Colin Dunn. Sorry, positive perception, I have to mention him, he's on camera. Just coming out of the pit lane. The pit stops are very short, so out he comes then. He's going to reappear. It's about roughly about 5th position, so he's not going to lose too much from that. Nathan Down is now in. And you can see actually how quick the pit stop is from that shot on the right-hand side, as we now see Frostick and Greer Hardy side by side right behind Tim Parsons. This could go horribly wrong, but it's well driven from all three of them. Greer Hardy then getting a bit of a run on Parsons, heading up towards Wilson as Parsons tries to shut the door and has to bail. I think he realised he's gone in too deep and didn't want to slam into the back of Tim Parsons. Nicely driven there from Frank Frostick to avoid impact. And that's 9th to Greer Hardy in the 119 car.
Yeah, so still lots of chopping and changing. Thankfully, all this hard work from Greer Hardy is slowly starting to pay off. That's Jamie Peters-Ennis looking up the inside of Colin Dunn. Colin Dunn fresh out of the pit lane, of course, only pitting 1 lap ago. Jamie Peters-Ennis pitting 10 laps ago. Neither of them will have taken tyres. It will all just be fuel related. You'd imagine they'll be on a similar fuel load at the moment. One thing to take into account, though, since being in the pit lane, Jamie Peters-Ennis has spent a lot longer in the car, so he might be back used to that EnduroKA. That's got to be his favourite move. Very late on the brakes, gets the car turned in and fires the car back off the corner. It slows him down, but he manages to park it perfectly on the apex, meaning Colin Dunn can't work his way back through. Peter Jones slowly starting to peel away slightly further up the road. The top 4 still yet to pit, as well as from 8th right the way down to 12th of Tim Parsons, Andrew Greer Hardy, Frank Frostick, James Wakefield and Tom Bunton still yet to dive in to the pit lane as well. So half the field have been in. Just over, less than half, of course, still yet to go into the pit lane, but we've got 24 minutes for them to decide. In theory, 14. The pit window open from 10 minutes, I believe, to the 50th. And now we're seeing Andrew Greer Hardy, having only just made that position under pressure once again from Frank Frostick, looks to the inside. Can he get the car slowed down? A flick of oversteer through Brundle, gets the car settled for Nelson, and manages to work his way back up into 9th place.
And that's James Black that's now into the pits. So the top 4 up to that point needing to come in at some stage. So that's going to give 3rd place to Peter Jones, and 8th to 12th still have to come into the pit lane as well. So that is Parsons, Frostick, Greer Hardy, Wakefield and Tim Bunton. There is James Black just coming back out of the pits, and he's coming into a bit of a squabble here. This is not going to be ideal for him. That's Peters-Ennis right behind. Is Jamie Peters-Ennis going to use that momentum around the outside of the Graves Motorsport emblazoned car? Oh, that got a little bit uncomfortable. Get into the apex of the hairpin, and James Black just about. Oh wow, Colin Dunn bounces off the apex a little bit hard. Oh, look at this. This Tom Bunton in the Grid Finder car being hustled by Joe Kingston Lee in the Treble 8 car, side by side on the way to the Wilson hairpin. Again, Bunton playing defensive. Can he keep that position to himself? Just about at the moment. It's Joe Kingston Lee is really hustling hard to get into the top 10.
Yeah, brilliant battles everywhere we look, and this is just the nature of not only the EnduroKA Winter Sim series, but the actual EnduroKA series. It's no different to real life. They can race door to door using theoretically the same machinery, and it's no different at all. This is what the actual series like, and if you haven't seen and you haven't had the opportunity to attend a real event hosted by MSV that EnduroKA are attending, I cannot urge you enough. I've covered these now both in real life and in the simulator, and they are absolutely brilliant. Make sure you get yourself to a round at some point this season. You really would not want to miss it, because this is just a small sneak peek into what you can see. Only an hour's worth of racing. Some of the races are, like we mentioned earlier, 12 hours. The average between around about 5 or 6 hours, but a 12-hour race here, you honestly cannot miss it. Jamie Peters-Ennis goes slightly too hot in towards Brundle, sideways through Nelson. The car points the wrong way. That allows James Black not only to work his way in front, but also Colin Dunn as well. And all of that hard work from Jamie Peters-Ennis all coming undone. The hard-charging Bobby Simmons now in his rearview mirror. He will continue to push hard as well. The top 3 still yet to pit of Tom O'Farrell, Gary Preble and Peter Jones. But at the moment, those top 3 are well and truly just driving away, allowing each other to work away. And as I mentioned it, Peter Jones dives in towards the pit lane. It'll be interesting to see where he comes out in respect to this little battle now.
Yeah, very much so, considering how short the pit stop is. is going to be good fun to see. Mark Werrell and Nathan Down now locked in battle for the 12th position, just coming through bomb hole. Look how defensive Mark's going that early, heading down towards Coram. So they sweep through the long 180-degree right-hander. And now Mark's going to, well, they're both going to have to slow down. Oh, that was impact between the two. Well, it looked like there was impact between the two. But Mark managing to get the car slowed down despite being helped by Nathan Down. There's also Wakefield now into the pits. So not many pit stop stills to serve. Side by side then for Werrell and Down heading towards the first turn once again. Now, Martin had the inside line. It does look like Nathan Down's got a little bit of more momentum. So just gained 11th position from Wakefield. And there we go. This is going to be interesting. Can Down sweep around the outside of Werrell? Well, not without a fight, he won't. Now heading up towards the Wilson hairpin once again. And Marcus had to concede that particular position. He's got a little bit deep. But now he can start to rebuild that momentum to attack back. Great driving from Nathan Down.
Yeah, all the way around the outside. It's not often you see that. Back to the battle slightly further up the road. This is between James Black and Colin Dunn. James Black managing to work his way through and past Colin Dunn in towards Hamilton. They're just too far apart in towards Oggies. Colin Dunn, did he go quite slow there? Yes, he did.
That's Greg Giles. Yeah, so there's that's confused me earlier as well. Yeah, that's Greg Giles trying to get out of the way.
Perfect, thank you very much. Good spot there. So that's lap traffic now starting to play a part. We've still got 20 minutes of the race remaining, so it could play yet more of a factor potentially into or out of some of our drivers' hands. Definitely something to consider. At this point, Colin Dunn will be happy he's managed to work his way through and past that lap traffic before he gets to the end of the Bentley Straight in towards Brundle and Nelson, riding on board with Greg Giles. Now this is quite a good little camera angle because you can see just how far the drivers are up the road as it stands, but of course he will have quite a busy job as well, because not only will he want to make up some time, he's got to keep an eye on that rear view mirror just to make sure he's not unnecessarily holding anybody up. But of course, as we all know, it is the faster car's job. It is their job to work their way past, and the easiest thing for Greg to do is just stick to his lines, make himself nice and predictable, and just keep turning his laps, because you never know, using all of the curb on the inside through Murray's and running wide on the exit of Nelson. There were a couple of cars up the road. Jack Mace in that little battle. Ollie Ricks, Jack Mace, James Wakefield, Greer Hardy not too far adrift as well. It looks like Jack Mace is desperate to try and work his way past Ollie Ricks on the run towards Coram and Murray's. He's well and truly within striking distance, potentially at the end of the centre straight in towards turn 1 at Rittries and maybe Montreal turn 2. We could see a change of position further up the road. This is between now Joe Kingston Lee and Tom Bunton. Kingston Lee, he went into the pit lane on lap 5. Tom Bunton still yet to pit. So theoretically, this is a battle you don't want to fight if you're Kingston Lee.
Not ideally, but that's the battle that he faces, whether he likes it or not. Side by side through Richies. Here we go again, rather a carbon copy of what we saw between Mark Werrell and Nathan Down only a lap ago. And wow, concluded well before the braking zone of the Wilson hairpin. And Tom Bunton has a look on the inside line as Joe has gone a little bit too deep into the hairpin. The grid finder car trying to capitalise on. They're all 8s, I've just realised. Treble 8 on Kingston Lee's car, double 8 on Bunton's car. So you need to have 8 in your car number to take part in this particular battle. But my goodness me, Joe Kingston Lee not content to just let that battle continue. Just gets his elbows out, coming through Richies. Now hogs that inside line, coming down towards Agostini. Tom Bunton, pick a line and stick with it. And he's going to have to concede that particular position. But both of them really giving us some great entertainment for 9th place.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe Kingston Lee was on the outside, irrespective of the corner there. He couldn't really decide what he wanted to do with himself, all around the outside at turn 1, all around the outside at turn 2, and managed to just sneak in front by the time we got to turn 3 of Palmer. And of course, Tom Bunton, brilliant defensive drive as well. He managed to make it as difficult as possible for Joe Kingston Lee. As you mentioned, we saw a few laps ago almost a carbon copy between Mark Werrell and Nathan Down. Mark Werrell now back in front of Nathan Down, up in towards 11th place. Jack Mace momentarily momentarily was in front of Ollie Ricks, but lost out just a few laps ago. We've still got the top two yet to pit of Tom O'Farrell and Gary Preble. Of course, Tom Bunton still yet to pit, as well as Frank Frostick, so still more jumbling of the order to be had when it comes to the pit strategy. But this is one of the best battles we've got on circuit at the moment. Tom Bunton, whilst he has lost that position, he's not going to make it easy for Kingston Lee to pull away. This is Jack Mace working his way in front of Ollie Ricks once again. How long this one will last, I'm not 100% sure, but this one looks a bit more secure than it did just a couple of laps ago. I say that as Jack Mace runs all over the grass. That allows Ollie Ricks to carry the superior momentum up towards the bomb hole on the inside. Does he get the move done? Yes, he does. Jack Mace careful not to run wide, potentially a slight lift that allows Ollie Ricks to work his way back in front on the run through Corham and on the way to Murray's. Is Jack Mace going to have a little look on the inside? No, Ollie Ricks just lets the car wash wide. The exit of Murray's, this is where you want the momentum, and that is what Jack Mace doesn't have. Very, very sideways on towards the centre straight, which means he's going to be on the back foot all the way down past the start-finish line on the run up towards turn one. That gap is only going to multiply this time on board with Tom Bunton. You can see that gap that Joe Kingston Lee has already built up.
Indeed so, as Frank Frostick has just been through the pits then. He comes out into 10th place. Only 3 cars yet to see the pit lane, which is our lead two, Tom O'Farrell and Gary Preble, and Tom Bunton in 9th, the car we're on board with. So he still needs to come in. He's leaving it quite or comparatively late. We're in the final quarter of this race. Coming back to what you were saying earlier, Jack, this race is absolutely flying by. For those that haven't had the great pleasure of enjoying an EnduroKA race, I can absolutely testify they are fantastic to see. I absolutely implore anybody that wants to see or even get involved in this kind of racing. It's more a cost-effective racing solution for those interested in endurance racing, and they are superb fun cars to drive and even more fun to watch. It's such a great series to be involved with. So yeah, absolutely implore, if you get the opportunity to attend a EnduroKA event, I would very, very much implore you to do so. Oh, that was someone coming into the pits. That's our race leader. So Tom O'Farrell is coming in. That's going to hand the race lead over to Gary Preble in the number 91 car. On my last visit to Snetterton, actually, I tried the accent. I'm partly from Norfolk. My old man is from Norwich, so I recognised one of the usual Orange Army, one of the marshals that is always there. As I'm proper Norfolk I am, and he sort of looked at me as if to say "blooming tourist," and I thought maybe not try that one again. So certainly not only a great place, but yeah, it's absolutely exemplified by the great racing we're seeing, and it's just a shame we only have 13 minutes of it left.
Yeah, it really is a shame. They do go by too quickly. Of course, we saw there Tom O'Farrell diving into the pit lane. This is pretty much the complete opposite to what we've seen from him at Silverstone. He managed to finish in 16th place, somewhat down the order, losing 15 places after starting on the front row of the grid. So he's really sort of flipped it around, kept his nose clean, which I think could have potentially been the issue at Silverstone, getting caught up in too many battles and losing too much time. And I think an incident was involved as well, but he's managed to maintain his good form here at Snetterton. Tom Bunton into the pit lane, out of the pit lane. He's got to be careful. Andrew Greer-Hardy somewhat close to the pit wall, manages to find a little bit of space, does Tom Bunton, ideal for where he really wants to be. He's not got too much pressure from Tim Parsons behind. We'll wait to see how that plays out. He's could almost just be within the draft assistance range, within a few laps of Andrew Greer-Hardy. We've only got one more driver left to dive into the pit lane. You'd expect to see him in this lap. He doesn't have time to work his way back round within the pit window, so logically Gary Preble will disappear behind the pit wall for a few moments, get the fuel required to get to the end of the race, covering off those final sort of 10 or 11 minutes. And then we may see another race on our hands. There's so much to consider here at Snetterton and in the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series. It's you honestly can't call it. If you were to say this is going to happen tonight, you can guarantee the complete opposite will. And it's been the same so far all the way up until this point at round 3. And I've got a feeling it will maintain the same for the entirety of the season.
Long may it continue. Absolutely so. It's great to see. As you see on the screen on the left, Gary Preble coming out of Murray's. Is he heading to the pit lane this time? He needs to, and he does. So race leader is into the pits. I will hand the lead back over to Tom O'Farrell, but by what degree? That is what we need to find out. As we can see then, Tom O'Farrell now on stage left. As Gary Preble gets back underway again, almost not coming to a complete halt there, but either way, out he comes. It's not going to be a huge amount in it. Tom O'Farrell was always going to regain the lead, but he now just needs to keep that momentum going, build those few tenths, few seconds. It only needs just over 10.5 minutes for Gary Preble to do anything about it. 3.7 seconds then. Whoa, don't go too deep. Don't throw it away, Tom. It's a bit of an up-down season. I know we've only had 2 rounds of it so far, but 4th in the opening round and, like you were saying earlier, 16th last time around in Silverstone. So Tom looking to do something about it. Jack Mace, though, challenging Ollie Ricks outside line of Coram. Tries to get the inside line of Murray's. Runs a little bit deep. That's going to allow Ollie Ricks to have a go as Peter Ennis and Bobby Simmons swap round, as do Ricks and Mace again. Then right behind them is Wakefield. Then Greer Hardy has got a great spectator seat for the battles going on ahead. Yet another side-by-side going on. Again, there's exactly what we come to enjoy from the EnduroKA series. Is always battles somewhere to see.
Yeah, you will never be bored, whether it be spectating, commentating, directing, driving even. You will always have somebody to race against. Jack Mace later on the brakes, up the inside on the run-up towards Montreal. Manages to get the car slowed down, back up the inside, but of course the tighter line in means the wider line out. That allows Ollie Ricks to set the car up quite nicely for the exit, but he's shown the outside on the run-up towards Palmer. It looks like quite a flat corner, but it can be quite dangerously off-camber if you run wide. Both of them managed to negotiate that quite well. Ollie Ricks, I would say, has the superior momentum on the run-up towards Agostini. Is he going to take a dive to the inside? Yes, he is. He's opened the door. Jack Mace hasn't slammed it shut as of yet. Is he going to look for the cutback? A wide line in, and it's going to be the wide line out by the looks of that. So a fairly clean move there from Ollie Ricks, and he's already got a little bit of breathing room on the run-up towards Hamilton. He can cut across the nose once again. Oggie's on the way, and that was that push wide there. Ollie Ricks very, very quickly in towards Hamilton, all over the grass. That also allows James Wakefield to work his way through and past and around the outside just about at Oggie's. So Jack Mace up 1, James Wakefield up 1, Ollie Ricks down 2. Whether that was assisted or not, that's not for me to say. But that does mean Ollie Ricks, in the closing stages of the race, he's lost 2 positions, so crucial at this stage as well. You did mention, of course, Jamie Peters-Ennis and Bobby Simmons swapping places just a little earlier on. Mark Werrell within a second of Frank Frostick. We could see a change of position there in a few moments' time. And Tom Bunton and Andrew Greer-Hardy getting ever closer together. Andrew Greer-Hardy has had the best season in the house for all of the battles we've seen this evening. But at the moment, he's part of one, because Tom Bunton desperate to work his way in towards the top 15.
Oh, Greer Hardy. So, I think he was either too hot in the bundle or he went very defensive very early. Oh, no, that's Parsons. That's got that one all wrong coming out of Nelson. It's Bunton then on the back of Greer Hardy for 15th place, as you said, Jack. Now, what can he do there? The 119 car was almost very slow coming through Nelson. Last time around. James Black and Peter Jones fighting for that last podium spot. Now that is going to be a fierce battle. Peter Jones has seen the podium this season already. Can James Black take that from him on this occasion? O'Farrell and Preble probably a bit out of range for each other. I mean, they're 20 seconds ahead of these guys, so unless something goes really horribly wrong with the top 2. Oh no, as James Black tries to get the inside line of Agostini. Looked like he was committed, but an impact between the two has sent the 53 car onto the grass. May not be too pleased about that and doesn't have much time to try and close that gap back down again as James Peters-Ennis has a look on the inside of Colin Dunn for 5th place. My goodness me, it's been all action for the number 46 guy. Is he going to have a look on the inside line of Oggie's? No, he doesn't go for that particular move. If they fight themselves too hard, Simmons is there to pick up the pieces as well. So right the way down to the flag, there is going to be battling to be seen.
Yeah, and of course, if we see Peter Jones and James Black battle as hard as we have done, that could drop them back into the clutches of Colin Dunn and Peter Ennis, who are battling hard enough to allow Bobby Simmons to work his way into the fold as well. So we could see 5 cars all fighting over the final step on the podium. And to be honest, it really doesn't surprise me. The EnduroKA Winter Sim Series has been nothing but excitement up until this point in the championship. So I urge you at the end of this evening, if you haven't watched the first 2 rounds, please go and watch them, because as much as it will feel like you're watching the same race over and over again, and the only difference is the circuit, there are some great battles to be watched. And if you don't really feel like watching the full hour's worth of racing, we have some brilliant highlights available as well, so make sure you go and watch those. Now we see Jamie Peters-Ennis once again looking up the inside of Colin Dunn on the run through Coram in towards Murray's. Is he going to throw the car towards the outside, which will evolve to the inside through Murray's? Yes, he does. Avoids the curve. There's contact between the pair of them. I think Jamie Peters-Ennis may be slightly too optimistic on getting the car slowed down, but Colin Dunn doesn't lose too much time. That allows him to work his way in towards the draft. Bobby Simmons is only going to be gaining out of all of this, so this is 3 cars all fighting over the final spot in towards the top 5. The battle for the final step on the podium has got a little bit of breathing room between it at the moment. Peter Jones still leading James Black as it stands. Slightly wider through there is Jamie Peters-Ennis, but it allows him to carry yet more momentum than Colin Dunn. So he's desperately trying to work his way into a little bit of breathing room. Whether that comes to fruition, I don't know. Frank Frostig has lost out to Mark Werrell, so Mark Werrell up in towards 9th place now in the final 5 minutes of this race. But again, even I said you can't call the race before it starts. You can't call it with 5 minutes to go. I still have no idea who this is going to swing the way of.
No, absolutely so. Whilst you might... Well, I was certainly saying earlier, the top 2 are out of range of one another. Doesn't mean it'll stay that way, as we now see Tom Bunton outside line of Ritchie's on Greer Hardy for 15th place. Is that going to remain that way? Is the 119 going to try and outbrake the grid finder car? He remains on the inside line. Racing room from Tom Bunton, nicely driven, and that is 15th place back to the green and green car. I nearly said Lotus then. Again, that's just what that livery reminds me of, the old Lotus colours. But still, goodness me, Tom Bunton not giving up on that whatsoever. Less than 4 minutes of the race to go. Right ahead of them is Wakefield and Ricks arguing as well. I beg your pardon, that is... it is Wakefield and Ricks, excuse me. And then ahead of them is Down and Mace. So you've got 3 pairs of battles going on here. As Tom Bunton then has a look on the inside line of Hamilton. You've got to be brave to commit to a move there, even in these cars. The track is wide enough to do it, but that's the danger. You're just wandering a little bit too wide. Greer Hardy's got back on track. He's going to lose that position unless he can hold on to the inside line of Oggies. No, he can't quite hold it. That's 15th, back to the grid finder number 88.
Yeah, great stuff from Tom Bunton. The drive out of Agostini really set himself up nice for Hamilton, and of course that position now made. Fastest personal lap of the race last time through for Gary Preble. A little bit further up the road we can see Jamie Peters-Ennis slowly working his way away from this battle. Bobby Simmons, Colin Dunn side by side, and Bobby Simmons in 6th place. Colin Dunn now in 7th place. This is Jack Mace trying to work his way up the inside of Nathan Down. Can't quite get the move done as of yet. Tries to get the good drive out of Nelson in towards the bomb hole. Can't quite get the move done. It seems like through Coram and Murray's, you set the car up nicely for the straight. You either get the move done at Murray's, or you set the move up at Murray's for the run all the way down the start-finish straight on the run up towards turn 1. Jack Mace looking towards the outside. Once again, differing lines, deciding on where to do it. Jack Mace cuts back once again, hard on the brakes, takes the wider line in, tries to maximise the momentum on the exit of the corner. 2 minutes and 20 seconds of the race remaining, so I'd say around about 2 laps. Tom O'Farrell, of course, has already crossed the start-finish line and is heading through Hamilton and on the run up towards Oggie, so he has still got, I would say, 1.5 laps to go. There is Bobby Simmons, still just about in front of Colin Dunn, but we don't really know where to look. The race was really close. It opened up slightly in the middle sort of section, and now it's closed up once again. Look at how close Colin Dunn is. Dives to the inside, moves once, moves twice, and pushing Bobby Simmons into the corner. You saw the tail end of the car break loose, but somehow, don't ask how, because I don't know either, Bobby Simmons is still in front.
I thought that was going to be Colin Dunn getting into Bobby Simmons' boot there, but somehow they avoided impact. Oh, that's Bunton gone too deep, coming out of the Wilson hairpin. Just about manages to shut the door on Greer Hardy there, but only just. Has a look on the outside line, coming through the long left-hander. Also, you got Parsons a couple of seconds back. He's likely to be gaining on them. Then to the top of the in the shot there, that was down a Mace. Still continuing their argument for 11th position. Look at that. Oh no, that's in between the two, but Tom Bunton points the nose in the right direction and absolutely boots it to get the car pulled back out of that slide. Nice recovery there. Here comes Colin Dunn now, trying to get back. Bobby Simmons coming through Brundle into Nelson once again. Can't quite get it done though. As he's been in 5th for a while. As we can see on the monitor on the right hand side, Tom O'Farrell starts what I believe is going to be his final lap.
Yeah, Tom O'Farrell on to the final lap of the race now. Very, very well driven race up until this point. He got the fastest lap earlier on. He's maintained a solid pace throughout the entire evening. Gary Preble has done his very best to stick with him. 4.5 seconds separating the top two at the moment. And it shows not battling, keeping your nose clean and making the strategy work for you really does, because the pair of those two, 22 seconds to the good over all of the cars behind. But now back to this battle. This is Jack Mace trying to work his way all the way around the outside of Nathan Down. Can't quite do it on the entry to the bomb hole. They're still side by side, nothing to pick between them. Jack Mace has got the longer route all the way around Coram. Will he get the car set up for the final little left-hander at Murray's? He's still on the outside. Is there an overlap? I wouldn't say so as of yet, but then dives back towards the inside, jumps on the brakes. He will get the car set up. Once again, the wider line through, tries to carry the momentum. All of this battling is allowing James Wakefield to work his way into the fray, but Jack Mace, look at the great drive he got out of the final corner. He'll carry that momentum all the way down the centre straight onto the final lap of the race. There's nothing to pick between them. This is, bearing in mind, ladies and gentlemen, this is the battle for 11th place of all things. Jack Mace is in front by, an entire bumper at this point, heading in towards Ritchie's turn one, once again side by side. Jack Mace will have the outside line. He will have to go the longer way around. Nathan Down once again works his way back up in front, but all that momentum carried around the outside will allow Jack Mace to maintain the side by side position. Through Wilson they go, and Nathan Down is in front. Not anymore. Runs very, very wide on the exit. A little bit of rallycross suspension being worked to the max, but Jack Mace, after an incredibly hard-worked battle, is in 11th place for now. Let's say for now. We still have an entire half a lap to go, but on the left-hand side of your screen, there's Tom O'Farrell working his way through the bomb hole for the final time.
Oh my goodness, that four-way scrap is absolutely incredible. This is what we've enjoyed all race long, just with different groups. Almost everyone in the entire field has been involved in a multi-car battle of some description. Yeah, but all that work Nathan Down was doing just undone in the blink of an eye, and that's what we've said all along, isn't it? Just a small mistake is all it takes to undo all that hard work.
Yeah, absolutely. But towards the line for the final time comes Tom O'Farrell to take a win here at Snetterton. Wins round 3 of the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series. Gary Preble crosses the line to finish in 2nd place. A fairly quiet race from Gary, but that's exactly what you need. Works his way on towards the 2nd step of the podium. Hounded towards the line is Peter Jones to finish in 3rd place. James Black only 7/10. It's coming down yet more. It will almost be 7/10 flat at the line. Yes, it will, but Peter Jones hangs on for the final step of the podium to finish in 3rd place. James Black finishes in 4th, but this battle a little bit further down is not over as of yet. Jack Mace running very wide, so too does Nathan Down, so too does James Wakefield and Ollie Riggs. Everybody pushing hard. I think the driver that takes the top honours there was Andrew Greer Hardy. All 4 wheels off the road on the final lap of the race in towards Coram and Murray's go. This battle is James Wakefield on the inside, Ollie Riggs trying to work his way around the outside, but Jack Mace will lead the quartet through the final corner for the final time here at Snetterton, and that is Jack Mace, if he can hold on, which it looked like he will. And Jack Mace towards the line to finish in 11th. A little honk of the horn there. Nathan Down will finish in 12th place, and dare I call it, yet side by side over the line. James Wakefield hangs on for 13th place. Ollie Riggs just about 14th by 4 hundredths of a second. And coming towards the line now comes the rest of the order. Tom Bunton 15th, Andrew Greer-Hardy in 16th, Tim Parsons finishes in 17th, and the final finisher is Alex Saville finishing in 18th place. But what an advertisement for the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series. We say it every round, but that, I've got to say, probably one of the closest races we've seen, and we're going to be outdone in 2 weeks' time when we go to Alton anyway.
Absolutely so. Alton Park, obviously a very different characteristic as far as the circuit's concerned. I think really plays to the strength of these KAs. It doesn't have huge amounts of straights in it that obviously Snetterton does, and fair amount of undulation changing. So that is going to be a fantastic race to watch, as they all have been so far and will no doubt be through the rest of the series. But my goodness me, after an hour's racing, you still had some cars separated by less time than it takes you to blink. That is absolutely wonderful. What a brilliant evening's racing we've had from our amazing competitors.
Yeah, it really is just what you come to expect in the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series. We set the tone at round 1 and we've stayed with it all the way to round 3 at the moment. And of course, what best way to get an insight into how the drivers are dealing with it than with an interview? And it's not only just any of our drivers, it's our winning driver from this evening, Tom O'Farrell. Welcome into the commentary box. It seemed like a fairly uneventful race. You got away from the line quite well and just controlled the race from there.
Oh, that makes up for last week.
Well, that lasted long. It definitely did make up for last week. We'll get Tom back into the commentary box. There we go. So, Tom, welcome back to the commentary box. It well and truly did make up for last week. And, of course, not the capacity grid that we were expecting, but it definitely didn't take away from the competitive nature that was shown this evening. What do you think set you apart from everybody else?
Honestly, don't know. Honestly, last week was a complete disaster. I mean, I got pole last week and managed to forget to turn my steering wheel on, so I started 60 seconds behind everyone else from the pit lane. So it didn't go particularly well last week, but this basically lights the flag win. I'm over the moon with that, to be honest. I just hope, for the stream's sake, there was battles elsewhere that you could focus on, because a bit of a gap there. But kept honest by Gary, so very pleased with that.
Believe me, we weren't short of battles elsewhere. It was a very busy evening. Snetterton, it's one of the circuits that was heavily utilised on the run-up towards round 1 of the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series, and there was lots of laps being turned, and I think that experience showed throughout the order. Was it a circuit you were sort of nervous for, a circuit you were looking forward to, maybe one of the stronger circuits? Talk us through your thoughts coming into this round.
I don't like Snetterton. It's just too long. There's too many corners. It's such the gaps are just huge once you kind of get them in times. So it's just no real expectations, to be honest. I just knew I needed to set like half a second or so away from my fastest lap every lap, and I was kind of safe. So that's what I did, and the win, fantastic, and the fastest lap as well. I think that's 100% fastest lap.
Yeah, fastest lap
as well.
Yeah, you really couldn't have done more. So once again, congratulations from everybody here for a win at Snetterton, and we'll see you in around about 2 weeks' time at Alton Park. But before we let you go, anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Well, big thanks to obviously Mum and Dad, Emma, I know, who's watching back in Harlow as well. So thank you very much to them, and obviously sponsors as well. Visit Island Limited and Passar Sim Racing as well. So thank you very much to them. Cheers, guys.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Tom. That is Tom O'Farrell, race winner from this evening. Chris, we do have Peter Jones joining us in the commentary box. He's all yours.
Wow, Peter. I think it's fair to say the season didn't quite go didn't quite start, as you would have wanted in Donington. But Storm back with a podium last time out, and you've gone and done it again. So, talk us through your feelings.
I'm impressed with that, to be honest. I think when I qualified P5, I was actually getting kind of frustrated that I couldn't get more towards the front. But as soon as I got into the race, I noticed, I'm actually lapping consistently here. And as soon as I as soon as I got shuffled back a bit, we'll ignore that. I got a bit of clean air, and I noticed, okay, I'm actually lapping at the pace of some of the guys in front. So I thought, okay, James Black might be on the table, and I'm not quite sure what happened, but I jumped him in the stop, and I kept ahead somehow.
Well, in fairness, your pace was pretty consistent, and looking at the lap charts, the only person quicker than you was the race winner. So I think
Wow.
you're being a little disingenuous to yourself there, Peter. Your pace was
Wow.
superb. So
I
that's
didn't
all
actually
you.
know that. I didn't actually know
there
that,
you
to be
go.
honest. I thought I was trailing the front two, but apparently not.
The overall time, obviously, between you and Gary was a little bit higher than you would have liked. But
Yeah.
was this a circuit you were looking forward to coming into this round?
Not hugely, actually. Snetterton's not really one I lap much at, so basically this race right here was the most I've ever lapped it in one go. So yeah, and it got a bit tense as well because I've actually been ill for most of the week. So
Oh no!
I had about 10 laps of practice yesterday, and then I just joined quali early today. So yeah.
And what are your thoughts for Alton Park next time out?
I actually like Alton Park. I hope that I can do well because my main goal is to just be top 3 in the races, in the championships. So I do like Alton Park. So I'm looking forward to it.
And we look forward to seeing you out there in Cheshire's finest.
Cheers.
Great stuff. Well done on another podium. Thank you very much,
you.
Peter Jones.
Cheers. Thank you.
Quick chat there with Peter Jones. Thank you very much, Chris. We do have one more person to bring into the commentary box. This will round out our interviews, and why not? It's Gary Preble finishing in second place here this evening, returning after a week off, and what a return, qualifying on the front row of the grid, finishing in second place. It looks like you were there or thereabouts. You definitely gained time throughout the pit strategy and how that all played out, but it just wasn't quite enough. But Gary, I've got to say, a great drive nonetheless.
Thank you. Yeah, firstly, congratulations to Tom. Really well driven. Didn't make any errors. Just spent the whole race following him. I had a great start, side by side into sort of turn 2, and I thought, I didn't want it to be messy, so I just sort of backed off a little bit, gave him a bit of room, and that was the big fundal mistake. I just sat behind him the entire race, and he had better pace early on, and I was just seemed to be really struggling with the sort of heavy fuel load, and I could just see him creeping away a couple of tenths a lap, and just couldn't stay with him, and he pulled a gap, and then we seemed to neutralise it. I just seen a sort of, had the crew chief going and seemed to sort of neutralise the gap, and like you said, the pit strategy was good. I think we made a little bit of time up in the pit strategy. I got the fuel pretty much spot on. I think I had about 3.5 litres left at the end of the race, so I can't even say that I was severely overfueled. So no, well done, Tom. Good race.
Well, it was great to watch further down, and we were just keeping an eye on the times every now and then, checking in on you two, and it seemed like it was somewhat of a sedate race because you built up a great margin to Peter Jones behind, and it left you in quite a comfortable position. And I'm going to go somewhat against the crease here. Normally around about this time we would ask what are your thoughts heading into the next round in 2 weeks time at Alton Park, but I'm going to skip next round and go to a month's time. The 4th of March we head to Brands Hatch Indy Circuit, a 90-minute race, so 30 minutes longer than what we are currently running at. What are your thoughts heading into that? Because of course that means more fuel, a slightly shorter circuit, but a lot of undulation change as well.
This is obviously part of the reason we do lots of testing, and I sort of, me personally, I sort of, fill up the fuel, go do half an hour, see what the usage is, and try and just play around with the handle as much as possible. So, whether, like you said, the fuel strategy, another 30 minutes on top, that's going to play a big difference into how you start with the strategy. Like you say, do you start with a brim tank and take on a little bit in the fuel stop, or you're going to do a bit of a 50-50? You tyre wear, I think, on a 90 is certainly going to come into play. I think that's going to be a bit of a game changer, that race.
Yeah, well and truly something to think about. Thankfully, we've got a month to think about it and a month to get everything planned out. But Gary, congratulations on your second podium of the season, of course, winning round 1 at Donington Park. Before we let you go, anybody you'd like to thank or shout out while we're live?
Just big thanks to you guys really for putting it all on for us and keeping us entertained throughout the winter months before the main racing starts. So yeah, well played, well done.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Gary. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
All right, buddy. Take care. Thank you.
See you later. Gary Preble there. Great to have a chat with our second place finisher. That's the podium covered, and somehow, I'm not quite sure how it happens. You said that some of the drivers finished, like the gap between them was quicker than a blink of an eye, and that's probably the best way to describe how quickly the night goes in the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series, Chris. And of course, before we get any final words, we have to say a massive thank you to all of our sponsors and everybody that makes this possible. Positive Perception, of course, doing all the liveries, making sure that we have an incredible looking grid on show for everybody. So Positive Perception, well and truly making the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series worth it, as well as Turn 7 Racewear, who have we obviously had a chat with Callum McDougall a little earlier on. We brought them on board, 10% competitor discount on their racewear. And of course MSVT Racing and EnduroKA. So if you weren't, and of course Grid Finder as well. Staying on board with the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series. Great to have those guys on board, as well as Burton Power. We simply wouldn't be able to do it without them. And all of the battles we saw tonight, they were all fighting over a prize. The top 3 finishers in the Winter Sim Series will win a fully funded ARDS racing license. So if you don't currently have it, of course, you can go and get your race license. If you do currently have a race license, what better gift to give to a relative or a motorsport fan, anybody like that? You can say, there you go get your race license, and you never know, that could mean yet more names on the EnduroKA roster. So it's so well put together. To the untrained eye, you could watch this and go, this is a real series, because that is the aim of this, get it as close to real life as possible. And the battle, it's when you say obviously you're in the simulator, it's not real, yes, but the racing is. It gets so heated, and I'm sure emotions flare up throughout the entire evening. But then at the end of the night, everybody jumps in the same chat and all has a great chinwag about it. And I'm sure there'll be lots of great stories from everybody's perspectives tonight.
Absolutely. So yeah, you summed it up perfectly there, Jack. It may well be a simulation, but the racing is absolutely real. The effort and the passion that goes into finding those few tenths or few hundredths in certain instances is just as rewarding. It's just it's an amazing experience, be it virtual or be it real. And as you also said, Jack, the racing we've seen tonight perfectly epitomizes what can be expected trackside from the EnduroKA series.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for joining me in the commentary box, Chris. It's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you, everybody, for watching along. From myself, Jack Rowell, and Chris Buxton, your commentators this evening, and of course Mike, the director in the background, has done a great job of keeping track of all of the battles this evening. Thank you very much for watching along. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time at Alton Park. Bye-bye.